Welcome to chapter 9 of the book of Proverbs, the benefits of wisdom. Sophia, 4678. We'll go through a little in the Greek and then into the proverb. Sophia okodomisen iavti ikon ke epiritse stilus epta, esfaxe ta iavtis themata. Ekerasen is kratira toniav tis enon, ke etimasato tin iavtis trapezan. Wisdom built to herself a house, and she propped up 7 columns. The 7 columns of wisdom. This term was used by T.E. Lawrence for the book that he wrote. Was called, he was Lawrence of Arabia. Many of you have heard of him. He fought in the Arab war in the First World War, the Arabs against the Ottoman Turks. And when he finished, he wrote his autobiography, and he titled it The 7 Pillars of Wisdom. But I went through the whole Bible and lexicon, and I couldn't find anything about 7 columns, a house with the 7 columns. The only things I found which were interesting, one was in 1 Timothy 3:15, where it says, "But if I should be slowed, it is that you should know how it is necessary to behave in the house of God, which is the assembly of the living God, column and base of the truth." So the house of God is what I'm guessing this is what it's about, the 7 columns in the house. And then it mentions in Revelation 3:12, "The one overcoming, I will make him a column in the temple of my God, and outside in no way should he go forth any longer, and I will write upon him the name of my God." The columns are something that holds a building up. They've been used through ancient times. They're still around, thousands of years old. We see these, the Mycenaeans in Crete, 1,000 years before Christ. They still have columns standing there in Greece, many places. The columns are holding something up. The 7 columns holding, now some people have, what's the word for it? Try to give explanations for this. You can read them on the internet, look up the 7 columns in the book of Proverbs. But that's about what I can find it's in the Bible, and that's what I tend to go for, not what somebody else has come up with, unless it really sounds reasonable. And it continues then in verse 2, "She, wisdom, slew the things to herself, or for herself, which are offered in sacrifices." So wisdom in itself takes care of itself in its sacrifices, whatever they are. And she mixed into a basin wine for herself, and she prepared a table for herself, more or less like what was used in the tabernacle or the temple at this time. If it was Solomon wrote this, she sent her own servants. Now we see this wisdom having this entity around her, a temple type of a thing, and something supporting it, and then sacrificing. There's no priests here, but wisdom itself is able to do all this. She prepared a table for herself like it's in the temple. She sent her own servants, so wisdom has these servants. Now, if it's Christ, which I believe wisdom is, then Christ would be the one who has built a house. And it says that in Revelations 3:12, the column and base of the truth. And then she sacrificed, which is the offering of Christ's body, I would think. and sent her own servants, us, the disciples, and calling together with high proclamation upon a kratira, a basin, which put water of some sorts, that could be prayers, saying, whosoever is a foolish one, turn aside to me. Now, that's not, originally I was thinking, well, that's strange. Whoever is foolish, turn aside to me. So there wouldn't be wisdom, because wisdom wouldn't want a foolish one. But the whole idea here is for a foolish one to go to wisdom and not become a fool any longer. And to the ones lacking of sense, she said, come eat of my breads and drink wine which I mixed for you. And that would be wisdom inviting any that has lacking sense or is a fool to come and drink and eat bread. Well, that's exactly what Jesus had, the bread and the wine, which I mixed for you. So here we see Jesus, Christ, in this proverb so clearly. Cease folly, and you shall live, and that's pretty much the message of Jesus in so many places. And living is not just here on this planet, but living after this body dies and continuing on with God. That's real living. And seek intelligence, that you should spend life. So you have wisdom, so now you want to spend your life serving to the wisdom of Christ. And keep straight understanding by knowledge. Your knowledge gives you an understanding, and this is again reminding it, this is a godly wisdom, not the wisdom of man. And I mentioned the wrong person in the last chapter 8. I said David Hawking. It's Stephen Hawking, mathematician, cosmologist, supposedly. And it continues then in 7, the one correcting evil men shall take on himself dishonor. So if somebody is evil and you go out there and tell them they're doing something wrong, well, you're going to be dishonored by them. They don't want to hear it. And in reproving, the impious one scoffs at himself, within himself, to himself, the impious ones and the men with dishonor. It says, do not reprove evil men, so that they should not detest you. Reprove a wise one, and he shall love you. Now, how do you know? Well, that's easier said than done, isn't it? There are evil men as Christians, God brings in our path, and we want to relate to them the things of God, just as Jesus did with choosing Judas Iscariot, knowing that Judas would eventually betray him, but yet he chose him. And why? I don't know why, but maybe that he would have changed. Does that mean that Judas had the possibility of changing? I believe it did. Jesus knew he didn't, but that didn't mean that Jesus was making him do it. The things within Judas did it on its own, within Judas to Judas. And even though Jesus knew it, doesn't mean that he made it happen. Sort of like the man who is at a train track and the train's going by and he is coming by and he sees the engine and then all the box cars, and at the end goes by and he sees the caboose, where God is up above and he can see the whole train. He knows where it's going, the beginning of it and the end at one view. So Jesus seen all of these things, but yet he did choose Judas. Give to a wise one opportunity, and that's verse 9, and he will be wiser. A wise one opportunity, and he will be wiser. If you give him, God gives wisdom to us for us to be wiser. Make things known to a just one, and he shall proceed to receive more. anybody that's just and fair, and you give them the things of whatever God would have you to impart to them, then they will receive it and it'll be good for them. Vice versa, people give us things from God that we receive more. The beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord. So that's the beginning of our wisdom, the arche, and that was mentioned in the last video, the arche, the beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord, and Jesus was there at the beginning. And the counsel of holy ones is understanding. So to fear God is the beginning. If you don't fear God, then what kind of belief do you really have? It's almost like, well, I fear God. I fear, Jesus says, don't fear somebody that'll kill your body, but fear the one that can send you into hell, basically. So the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So when I come to the fear of God, I do not want to go to hell. I am going to listen. And the counsel of holy ones is understanding, and the holy ones we need to be around as much as possible. For to know the law is of good consideration, and the law to them was the laws of Moses. To us it's the law of Christ. For in this manner you shall live a long time. Chronology comes from that. And years of life shall be added to you. And knowing the word of God, God will give us, I believe, a long time on this earth to impart the things that we know of him to others. O son, if you be wise, you shall be wise to yourself. And if you should turn out to be evil, then you shall draw evils alone. The wisdom that we have is our own. It's not somebody else's. Just as time is only ours. It's not anybody else's. Our time is completely different than anybody else's time. We're born at a spot and we die at a spot, and nobody else is born at the same time exactly and dies at the same time exactly. If they did, we would never know it. Even twins that come out, they're still born at different times. So time is something that is for us. Wisdom, same thing. It's only for us. The wisdom that we have is necessary for us and for what God would want to impart to other people. Now, there's a lot of things that are wise that I don't know about. God doesn't have me deal with them, and I don't talk about them. Don't know what they are. But the wisdom that I do have, whatever it is, comes from God, then that's good. Evil ones shall draw, they'll be alone. Evils alone shall draw evils alone to themselves, basically. Now it changes to the foolish woman. Now, we first word the Guinea, a woman. Now, as I mentioned, if it's talking about the Guinea with a husband or an andros, it would be a wife. But there's no mention here of a wife, and it could be a woman harlot, but there's no mention of this woman being a harlot. It's just a foolish woman. And we have to follow these numbers. A foolish and bold woman, 4, who, 5, does not have knowledge of shame, 7, becomes 8, lacking of a morsel, 9, 10. Doesn't have anything. She's foolish and doesn't have anything, like the foolish virgins in the New Testament that didn't bring enough oil to wait out the night for the groom to come. She sits at the doors of her own house upon a chair, visibly in the squares. People walking by, she's there in her door. And she's calling the ones passing by the way, and the ones going straight on their way, saying, well, whoever is most foolish of you, turn aside to me. Well, she's not really saying that, but basically that is the result of what she is saying and how she is doing it. It would be like if she was saying that. She is basically calling somebody that is a fool, the most foolish among you. And to the ones lacking intelligence I rouse, saying, breads of secrets you touch with pleasure. And see, when we got that dagger, so we'll go down and see what that's about in 17. Stolen. So it means stolen breads you touch with pleasure, and water of fraud you drink sweet. These evil things that she would have you to do, trying to talk you into them being pleasurable and being sweet, where in reality they are disastrous to the person, a young man, and not sweet at all, poisonous. But the young man, he does not know that earth-born men are destroyed by her. And he meets upon the perch of Hades. Now, so many of these places, it sounds like a man's writing them, and women could be rewriting this. Well, what about the man? How come it doesn't condemn the man? Well, it is condemning earth-born men are destroyed by her. And a woman does not want to be that type of a woman. Want to be a Christ-like woman that is mentioned throughout the Bible. So many good women are in the Bible. My favorite, probably of all the women, is Ruth. I just think Ruth was great. Your God is my God. Wherever you go, I will go. Your people are my people. And she stayed with Naomi just as we are to stay with Christ. Wonderful woman. So he meets upon the perch of Hades, or hell. And I mentioned before this rescue mission that I preached in years ago, 40 years ago, had a big, huge mural on the wall, and the mural had looked like a volcano and all kinds of people around the volcano, and that was Hades. Fire is coming out of it, and some of them are looking down, some are jumping in, some are turning around, running away from it. Others have knife like they're going to kill somebody. Others, all the different scenarios of the Bible about the people that are on the perch of Hades. Well, who is on the perch of Hades? I would venture to say that almost everybody at one time or another in their life is on the perch of Hades, doing something that if you lost your life, would you be with Jesus? Maybe not. And I know myself, that's certainly the case. There's things that I did that I was on the perch of Hades. If somebody would have pushed me, it would have been the end. I would have been in hell. Chapter 10, the just and the impious. Two different symptoms here. We will find out what they're all about. Our next video seminar, Chapter 10. Hope you join us. Till then, God bless.